Today we have the 2020 Ram Rebel, and for 2020 there's even a couple of different new features. This truck is loaded up with tons of options, so I'm going to show you everything that you get with it. We're going to take a full look at everything on the outside, the inside, and go for a test drive. Now I apologize, I did not get to take this Rebel off-road, and I know that is the biggest thing about this Ram compared to the other Ram 1500s, but I'll show you everything else that you get with it. Let's get into it. Now under the hood for 2020, you've got a few different options. So first of all, standard is going to be the 3.6 liter naturally aspirated V6. You can option up and get the 5.7 liter Hemi with or without e-torque. The last Ram I drove was the 5.7 Hemi with e-torque, if you want to see how that compares to this one, because in this one we have the 3 liter ecodiesel. It's a V6 diesel. It's capable of 260 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque, paired with the new 8-speed automatic transmission that's specifically designed for this engine for increased torque. The biggest thing about going up to this engine, which is new for 2020, is that it's a $5,000 upgrade. So you got to think about that if you're weighing the fuel costs and fuel savings, if that's your biggest thing. But the low-end torque that you get with the diesel could really come in handy while towing. Depending on how it's equipped, it can still tow over 12,000 pounds with this Ram. I'll put a link in the description below so you can see which grade levels and which configurations can tow what. Now in two-wheel drive, this engine is capable of giving us 32 miles per gallon highway, but as equipped 4x4, it's rated at 21 city and 29 highway. And on my short highway test, I didn't quite get EPA numbers, but still significantly better than I got with the Hemi. One other really nice thing is that you can option up and get a 33-gallon fuel tank, which we have right here. That can really come in handy. So when we take a look at the bed of the truck, it's a very important area for any truck buyer, and Ram can give you a lot of different options. So first of all, you can get, with the quad cab, the shorter cab, you can get the 6'4" box, or with our crew cab, you can get the 5'7" box. You can get a traditional box, or you can get the Ram box, where you have these Ram bins on each side. They're both lockable, they have lights, one of them has a 3-prong outlet, and they're drainable and they're weatherproof. In addition to that, you can get this split function tailgate. You can get a regular tailgate, or you can get this one that opens up like this. And there's one negative to this that I've got to mention, but one positive is that you can have easier access to the cargo area to where you can just get closer to it. However, when I was standing on here, when this tailgate was down, there's definitely some flex where these two doors come together. So if you're going to do some heavy loading with this type of tailgate, I would probably rather go with a regular traditional tailgate. Another thing is that since we have the 4-corner air suspension, with your key fob, you can double click and it's going to automatically lower this truck bed a little bit to make it easier for you to load and unload. Another perk to the air suspension is if you get a heavy load that causes your rear end to squat or sag, it's going to automatically level it for you, so you don't have to worry about a saggy bottom while you're towing. And the rest of the bed is very nice. We've got a spray-in bed liner, LED box lighting on both sides, 4 movable tie-down hooks, regular fixed tie-down hooks as well, and it's still wide enough for 4x8 sheets. Now bed dividers have been around for a long time, but with the Ram box you don't have the wheel wells back here. It's just slotted areas, and with this one all you gotta do is turn that. You can pull this towards you, put it in its next slot or whatever slot you want, and then tighten it back up, and that way you've got a pretty solid bed divider to where you can move it very easily wherever you want, or you can just throw it all the way back. So I think that's pretty nice. And just like towing, payload depends on your configurations. Check that link in the description below to see which configuration you'd go for and how much payload it can do. The max payload on a Ram is over 2,000 pounds, but it definitely drops depending on the grade. Now as we take a quick look at all the exterior details, we're going to talk exclusively about this Rebel. I talked a little bit more about different trims on a different video. The Rebel's going to give us this Sport Performance hood. It's a bulkier, sporty, more aggressive hood, and the specific Rebel black grille with the silver letters. We still get LED reflectors, LED headlights all around, just no adaptive function, the accent lights, LED fog lights, and of course you have tow hooks and a big front skid plate. And there's other skid plates underneath that include the transfer case and the fuel tank, so you've got a lot of coverage underneath. This paint color is called Maximum Steel. It is very dark, looks almost like a black, a dark gray with metallic, and it's sporty yet off-road looking with this Rebel package, and of course you get some bigger fender flares. The Rebel's going to give you 18-inch wheels with a good set of knobby tires as well, so you've got a good amount of tire. Don't have huge wheels on this one. And this model has the optional running boards that I would bypass for the Rebel. And then of course the Rebel's going to give you distinct shocks. You get these Bilstein off-road front and rear shocks, and typically it'll give you the standard setup of the multi-link coil springs instead of leaf springs, and we have the 3.92 electronic locking rear axle. The Rebel gives you an extra 1 inch of ground clearance compared to other Rams, but we have the optional $1,900 four-corner air suspension that I mentioned. That'll give you up to 2 inches of extra height over regular Rams and a total of 10.7 inches of ground clearance. Rounding out the back, you've got the LED taillights, dual exhaust tips, that Class 4 receiver is standard, and a full-size spare tire. Now, newly optional for 2020 on the Rebel is the safety and convenience group. That's now going to give you on this Rebel the adaptive cruise control, which is a stop and go function that works quite well. Full speed forward collision warning with automatic emergency braking, a lane keeping system. It's not an aggressive lane keeping system. And then automatic high beams. And of course, if you don't want those and it comes on your truck, you can turn them all off anyways. Now, even though the Rebel is a taller riding truck, because of that four-corner air suspension, you can have it do an entry-exit system to where it actually lowers down to its lowest setting to make it easier to get in and out, just like loading and unloading. All right, we're at normal mode. Going up for off-road mode. Okay, we're in off-road mode. Now we're going for entry-exit. Okay, we're in entry exit. Aside from that, you've got these running boards, which are optional, and then you've got these grab handles on both sides. And typically the Rebel will give you cloth seats standard, but we have the optional leather seats. These are 12-way power adjustable, including 4-way lumbar support. They're also heated and they have some perforations, but they are not ventilated. And overall, they're very comfortable seats. I've got no complaints in here. It's a very spacious cab, very nice all around. The steering wheel is going to be leather wrapped, and we have the optional heated steering wheel. So leather wrapped and heated with manual tilt and telescoping. All right, now as we start a quick look at the inside, this is what you can use to lower the vehicle. You have remote start on here, smart key system standard for this Ram key fob. Push button start is right there. Nice start up with the diesel. Now I'm going to make this very brief, but Ram gives you some nice material on the armrest and the upper door panel. You've got only the front windows are fully one-touch automatic. You can power fold the mirrors with the button here, and I like how the mirrors actually have the extra little towing / blind spot area in them as well. The steering wheel is fairly comfortable to hold on to. I like this style, and it's leather wrapped. You've got the perforations on the side, all of the controls that you need, and audio controls on the back as well. I just wish there was maybe a little bit of a bulkier grip up here. But this display up here, the 7-inch display, is standard on the Rebel in between these physical gauges. It shows you a lot of good information, and you can customize what you see in all 4 corners here. But trip computer, speedometer, any vehicle information as well. There's a lot of different information available. Unlike that last Ram that I was in that had a hard dash, this has a leather dash. So depends what you like. Totally up to you. Doesn't really matter. Got a little storage bin up here with a soft liner so stuff doesn't slide around, and a 12-volt power outlet. And then right here we have the optional 12-inch screen. There are some things that I like about it and don't like about it. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto is standard, but it's only on half of it. It's not like a portrait style. I would prefer that this screen was more of a lateral, horizontal landscape style, but it is what it is. There's a lot of stuff that you can control on here. You still have some physical buttons for like your heating and AC over here and on the right, volume and tuning knob as well. Otherwise, mostly everything is touchscreen on there, including your heated seats and steering wheel. Rotary dial shifter here, 4-wheel drive controls. There's no 4-wheel drive auto like there was in the last one that I was in. It must just be for the Rebel. And then you have the locking rear axle button down there and your downhill assist control. Down here you got some nice switches. So you got your trailer brake controller here, which is optional on this trim. This is where you can raise and lower the suspension, and it'll show up on your driver display over on the by the steering wheel. Traction control, tow haul, and then you have front and back parking sensors here. Let me show you the backup camera. You've got this dynamic line, or this hitch line that can be used for a hitch. Otherwise, you've got dynamic lines. No 360 camera on our trim. Ram's center console is really nice. So first of all, you've got this dedicated little phone holder if you want to use that and keep stuff plugged in. You've got 4 different USB ports, a couple type C, couple regular, and an auxiliary port. And then this is a super deep bin. So this cup holder can slide forward and backwards with decent sized bottle holders, a little bit tight and snug, but coin holders, an extra rubber liner right here. Then you can lift this up for one section that is still a soft rubber liner, and you can kind of section some stuff off, or you can raise it up and have even more space down there. A super deep bin overall. Then right next to your leg, there's a little storage pocket on each side of the center console. I love how Ram gives you 2 glove boxes. So you've got that one, and then you've got this one down here, which is a lockable glove box. And one thing to note about this is that we have the optional Harman Kardon audio system that sounds fantastic. It's 19 speakers. The dual zone climate control that's up there for you and your passenger to individually control stuff is actually optional, and so are those parking sensors. Another thing that's optional is this $1,500 dual pane sunroof. So that goes way back overhead, as I'll show you when I'm sitting in the back seat. Now the back seat of the Ram is also very good at accommodating passengers. You've got a center folding armrest right here. The seats are comfortable. We have AC vents, charging ports back here, and extra cup holders. And you've got this panoramic glass overhead. Now you may have seen some Rams where the back seat can actually recline, which it can, but it's just on the top couple of trims, not on this Rebel. Now our Rebel doesn't have it, but heated or even ventilated seats are available on these Ram trucks back here. The biggest takeaway with this back seat area though is just how functional it is. So first of all, you can 40-60 split fold the seats up for really flat load floor. There's even a separate little area where you can have stuff tucked under the seat for storage. And there's these specific Ram bins on each side, little tiny bins that can store some knick-knack items under the floor. If you have the seats folded up and you just use this like a storage area, it's basically like the back of an SUV back here. It is so spacious. Y'all, we are now behind the wheel of this Rebel, and there's a big difference between this Rebel and the last Ram 1500 that I was recently in. The last one had that 5.7 Hemi with the e-torque and just the standard coil suspension, and this one has the diesel, as I said, with the 4-corner air suspension. So I'm going to touch on the differences between the powertrain, the differences in ride comfort. Just like before, I have not been able to tow, so I apologize for that. But as far as what I can tell and what I know, the biggest bonus to having that 4-corner air suspension comes with your payload and with your towing. Not to give you more of it, but to level out your truck, because you can definitely get some sag with some heavy payload, especially in a light duty truck, and with some towing, and you can level out that truck. It's going to automatically level out for you, which is a really nice feature if you're doing a lot of that. As far as ride comfort, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit to see whether it's better or worse or the same. This first road that I'm on is a jittery, bumpy road, and most time if I drive a pickup here with the ladder frame or solid axle, anything, it really jolts you around, it jerks you around. There's a lot of small bumps and waves, and this actually, with the air suspension, I think it's doing a nice job. It's kind of hard to completely compare apples to apples with that other Ram that I had, because that had different tires, it had different wheels, and the tire pressure in this Rebel with these off-road tires is pretty high. Actually, it's in the 50 for PSI when you're not airing down, so that definitely can change things up. But as far as what I can tell, the ride comfort on a day-to-day basis is more or less very similar with the standard coil suspension, where you don't have the air suspension. Either way, it is good. Now, most of you probably aren't going to care, because either way, I think this air suspension and that standard coil suspension are better in terms of ride comfort than the leaf springs on the competitors. So, hands down, still, I think the most comfortable daily driving truck on pavement. And as far as that diesel goes, there are some things about this powertrain One thing is that the diesel is actually very quiet. There's minimal vibration, there's minimal noise from that diesel. Some of you might actually want to hear more of that diesel, and you really don't get to hear very much of that. I mean, just sitting here, it's very quiet, super quiet. There's almost no diesel sound at all. You can hear that if you have the windows down, and it does sound quite nice. It's got a refined feel to it and sound to it when you do hear it. But let's go ahead and get on it. Pedal down. And what I've found with this 8-speed automatic is that generally this seems to be more, I guess, a smoother shifting transmission than the 8-speed with that 5.7. And I've heard good things about that, but it was not my favorite, maybe not the smoothest. But with this powertrain, you get the torque very early with that diesel. So let me go ahead and get a little pedal down, and you get a kick in the back. You get some instant boost, some instant pull. There are some times where this is a little laggy, so I'm gonna go ahead and I got on it, and it certainly took a little bit to downshift and to get that boost. But as soon as you start to get the RPMs up even a little, you get that boost pretty quick. Now, handling on the Ram is okay. I don't think it's as good as the GM trucks, but it is certainly better than older Rams, and you can't complain about it whatsoever. It's still a very well planted vehicle, and I honestly maybe think the air suspension gives us a little bit more of a planted feel. It's kind of hard to compare. They're not identical, but it's a very nice truck to drive. I've got to say that. Quietness, noise, vibration, harshness, one of the quietest vehicles that I've been able to test, honestly, in a full-size truck for sure. So laminated glass over here, very quiet on rough surfaces, quiet at high speeds, no problems with that. A very quiet cabin, no matter how you have it. Some of the Rams actually give you active noise control to detect unwanted noise and help to filter those out. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get on it again. And going from gear to gear, when you're under acceleration, boom, 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 it goes through those 8 gears really smoothly. It just can be a little delayed initially and a little laggy right off the bat. Now, one thing that we have are some of the safety features like the lane assist and the adaptive cruise control, thanks to this newly optional equipment group on this Rebel. So you can get those if you want. You certainly don't have to, and you don't have to use them even if your truck has them. But the biggest takeaways with this Rebel, or with this Ram just in general, with the 4-corner air suspension, is that if you're doing a lot of towing and payload, maybe that's when you would want to get it. On daily driving, for me personally, I wouldn't get it. It's just an extra expense, maybe an extra cost down the road, and I probably wouldn't get it. I think the coil suspension on the standard Ram is plenty good, but like I said, towing and payload, probably a good scenario to go with that to help level out your truck. And with the diesel, you certainly do have more efficiency. I didn't get quite as good of efficiency on my short highway trip, where I do most of my testing as it says, but definitely still better than even the 5.7 with the e-torque. So still better. 2-wheel drive for sure is the way to go if that's your main objective, efficiency. What do y'all think of this Rebel? Let's go ahead and wrap things up. Now, I really enjoyed showing you this 2020 Ram Rebel. Ram has come a long ways, and they are really quite impressive and very well rounded in this half-ton class. Now, aside from this being the off-road variant, you can dress it up pretty much however you want. You can get a lot of nice features. You can keep it more simple and basic if you want, but it's still going to be capable as an off-road vehicle either way. You get this diesel engine if you want that extra efficiency. And one unique feature is the 4-corner air suspension that I showed you. A couple different scenarios that could really come in handy if you want it. And aside from that, it's still the smoothest riding half-ton truck in the class. Lots of storage, lots of powertrain options, very off-road capable with towing and payload, and very spacious and comfortable. It's hard to go wrong with this Ram 1500. Thank y'all so much for watching. What do y'all like of the Ram, especially this Ram Rebel, the off-road variant? Leave your comments down below. Subscribe if you liked the video and you want to see more videos like this. Have a great rest of your day.